Do you want to unlock the full potential of your Maxspect Gyre pump and run it in both forward and reverse direction? Hello and welcome to another episode of CVtv. My name is Carlos and I will be your host for today. In this video, I'm going to show you how to program your Neptune Systems Apex controller to take advantage of the IceCap module and make your Maxspect Gyre run in alternating gyre mode. We will place our gyre vertically on the back right corner of our aquarium and have it push water along the back and then automatically change directions and reduce flow to run from back to front. Our pump will switch directions and pulse at two different speeds in 30-second intervals. I will show you how to properly synchronize the pulsing flow with a directional pattern to ensure that the pump runs at the correct speed for each corresponding side. Our goal is to ensure that the pump runs at 60% intensity along the back and then, as it switches to a shorter distance between the back and the front, automatically reduce its flow intensity to 30%. This video is for beginners, but some background experience in key products will help you get up and running quicker. If you have not done so, I recommend watching our previous video, IceCap Gyre Interface Module Apex Controller Setup. While it is not required for this video, it does cover some basic terms and programming that will definitely help you and make this video easier to follow. This video also assumes that you already have a working Apex controller with an already configured connection to Apex Fusion. Your Apex should also have an open variable speed port, and you should be familiar with the creation of virtual and regular outlets. If you have not configured your Apex controller or connected it to Apex Fusion, a really good place to start is Neptune Systems website. They have an amazing website full of support articles, videos, as well as support forum with a thriving community of experienced staff and fellow Apex users. You can visit them at www.neptunesystems.com. You will also need to have the IceCap module connected to your Apex controller using the single end cable. The alternating gyre mode cable was not included with your module, but don't worry about it. If you don't have it, please head over to CoralVue.com and purchase it. While you may not be able to physically run the pump at this time, you can still follow along and program your Apex so it is all set to go. So let's get ready for IceCap Gyre Interface Module Alternating Gyre Mode. This is the cloud interface for the Apex controller, also known as Apex Fusion. Here you are able to remotely view your tank stats as well as your outlets. This video assumes that you already have an Apex controller fully configured and it is connected to Apex Fusion. If you need any help doing so, please head over to www.neptunesystems.com. The goal of this video is to program our Apex controller to run our gyres in both forward and reverse direction, also known as alternating gyre mode. The first thing we must do is to ensure that the module is connected to the Apex correctly. The module should be using the single-ended cable, not the Y cable that came with your module. If you don't have the single-ended cable, please head over to CoralVue.com to purchase. The Apex controller comes equipped with two variable speed outlets. Each of the outlets is capable of controlling two separate pumps, either variable speed 1 and 2 or variable speed 3 and 4. So let's make note of which of the outlets we connected our cable. In our case, I connected my cable to variable speeds 3 and 4. Therefore, I'm going to look at my outlets, and the corresponding outlets for variable speeds 3 and 4 on my Apex are variable speed 3 and variable speed 4. If you had a chance to watch our previous video, IceCap Gyre Interface Module Apex Controller Setup, we established there that a single variable speed outlet can control and move a single pump in forward direction. But with alternating gyre mode, we need two signals to control one pump. That is why we have a single-ended cable with two pump signals going into a single IceCap module box. In essence, our variable speed 3 outlet will control the speed of the pump, and at the same time, our variable speed 4 outlet will become a switch that will either run the pump in forward motion or in reverse. Since we are installing our gyre vertically on the back right corner of our tank, we can establish that if the gyre is moving water from back to front, then it is moving forward. If the gyre is pushing water along the back, then it will be running in reverse. As with most standard tanks, the length of the back is much greater than the distance between the back and the front. This means that we need to make sure that the speed of the pump when moving forward or back to front is less than the speed of the pump running in reverse or along the back of the tank. Otherwise, if the speed of the pump is too great when running back to front, we will end up with a big sandstorm, which is something we would like to avoid. In order to accomplish this, we will need to create a pulsing profile that will change the speed of the pump from low to high in a set time interval, and then create a directional profile that will change the direction of the pump from forward to reverse in a time interval that is synchronized with that of the speed profile. In other words, if the pump is running along the back of the tank, we need its speed to be 60%. And when the pump switches directions to front to back, we need the speed to immediately reduce to 30%. So, let's get started by creating our first profile. To do so, let's click on the folder icon of our Apex Fusion menu. This will take us to the profile screen. As you can see, I already have a set number of profiles created, and this is because this Apex controller is running my office tank. Now, before we click on the next available profile, there's something that we need to make sure to take into consideration. To ensure that our speed and directional profiles are perfectly synchronized, meaning they start and end at the same time, the speed profile must be an odd number profile, and the corresponding directional profile must be in the next higher even number profile ID. In other words, if our speed profile is on ID 13, then our corresponding directional profile, the directional profile that needs to match the speed profile, must be on profile ID 14. Otherwise, if they are not set in this pattern, the profiles will not be synchronized. Let's go ahead and create our speed profile using profile ID 13. Remember, the speed profile must be an odd number profile ID. So let's click on PF13. The first thing we need to do is change the name of this profile from PF13, which is kind of hard to decipher, to something a little bit simpler. So let's call it SPD_day. This means speed profile during the day. The type, we're going to leave it as pump. So let's think about this. We need a pump that will move water at 60% along the back first, and then switch over to moving water from back to front at 30%. But let's make it even simpler. Let's take the directional variable off the table. We have a pump that will go from 60% to 30%, back to 60%, and then 30%. So technically we have a pump that is pulsing or oscillating. 60% for 30 seconds, and then 30% for 30 seconds. So initial time off is 0 because we want the profile to start immediately when it starts. The on time is going to be 30 seconds, and the off time is going to be 30 seconds. Again, we need 60% for 30 seconds, and then 30% for 30 seconds. The minimum intensity is going to be 30%, because that's the intensity that we need water to flow from back to front, and the maximum intensity is going to be 60%. And that means the pump is going to move water at 60% intensity along the back, and then switch to 30% intensity from back to front. Let's go ahead and click on save by clicking on the upper right hand corner iCloud with the arrow pointing up. That will update the Apex. And then success, new configuration sent successfully, and then let's click OK. So now let's click on the folder icon on our Apex Fusion menu to go back to the profile screen. Now, we remember that in order for the speed profile and the directional profile to be perfectly synchronized, we need to make sure that the speed profile is an odd number ID profile and that directional profile is the highest next even numbered ID. In this case, since we created our speed profile on ID 13, then we need to make our directional profile ID 14. So let's click on ID PF14 and create our next profile. The first thing we need to do is change the name of this profile. So I'm going to change it to dir_day, which matches with my speed day profile. So I know that both profiles correspond to each other. The type is going to be pump. Now, at the beginning of this programming part of the video, we established that the variable speed for port was going to be a switch that would turn the pump either in forward or in reverse direction. And the way we do that is by changing the intensity of the pump. So if we run the pump at 0% intensity, the pump will move forward. If we put the pump at a 100% intensity, the pump will move reverse. So let's go ahead and set the initial time to 0 because we don't want it to delay and start. We need it to start immediately. The on time and the off time are going to be the same interval times that we set on the speed profile. If we remember correctly, we set that profile to 30 seconds. So 30 seconds on and 30 seconds off. The next part is a little tricky. Minimum intensity and maximum intensity. Well, it's a matter of which direction you want to run first. The maximum intensity will always run first and the minimum intensity will run second. So, in our speed profile, we set the pump to run at 60% speed first and 30% speed second. So in this case, since our pump is running at 60% speed first, that means that it needs to run along the back of the tank. And we established that when running along the back of the tank, the pump would be running in reverse. So the maximum intensity is going to be 100%. And again, 100% means running reverse. The minimum intensity is going to stay 0. And this means that the pump is going to run in forward motion. So what this profile dictates, it says that for the first 30 seconds, the pump is going to run in reverse. And then for the next 30 seconds, the pump is going to run in forward motion. And then this is going to repeat over and over again as long as the schedule calls. The last thing we need to do is to make sure that we check synchronized enable. And we do this because we want the directional profile, which is on profile ID 14, to synchronize with the previous odd number profile, which is our speed profile on profile ID number 13. Again, to save, click on the upper right hand corner cloud. Let's wait for the configuration to send, and then successful, new configuration sent successfully, and click OK. Now that we have created both the speed and directional profiles for our daytime, let's go ahead and create our nighttime profiles. To do this, just click on the folder icon on the Apex Fusion menu to return to the profile screen. Scroll down and let's find the next available odd number profile ID and click on that. As always, the first thing we must do is change the name of the profile to something a little bit easier. So I'm going to change it to SPD_night. And this just follows the pattern that I use for the speed day profile. The type is going to remain pump. And what we're going to do is we're basically going to create the same thing that we created for the day profile, except we're not going to have it oscillate every 30 seconds. We're just going to have it oscillate every 60 seconds. So like we did with the day profile, initial off time is 0, on time is going to be 60, and off time is going to be 60. My maximum intensity, which is going to be the first speed executed, and that is the one along the back of the tank, is going to be 60%, and the second intensity is going to be 30%, and that's the intensity that corresponds to running the pump from back to front. Let's go ahead and scroll up and hit on the orange cloud button to save. Let's wait for it. Once it's done, let's click OK. Now we need to create the corresponding directional profile. To do this, let's click on the folder icon on the Apex Fusion menu to return to the profile list. Scroll down and let's find the next even numbered profile ID. Remember, the speed profile must be an odd number. The corresponding synchronized directional profile must be an even number. So let's click on profile 16. Let's rename it to dir_night. The type is going to be pump. Initial off time is going to be 0. On time and off time both must match the interval set on the speed night profile. So 60 seconds and 60 seconds. And now remember, this is a directional profile. So our maximum intensity and minimum intensity are only 100 or 0. 100 means running in reverse, 0 means running forward. Since the pump is going to be running along the back of the tank first, and we established that that is reverse, then our maximum intensity is going to be 100%, and our minimum intensity is going to be 0, which means the pump is going to move forward. The last thing we need to do is make sure that we click Synchronize Enable, because we want this directional profile to be synchronized with the above speed profile. Let's go ahead and save this. Click OK. So we have created our 4 necessary profiles, and now our next step is to create a schedule that will call the profiles and execute them. To do this, let's click on the dashboard icon to return to our Apex Fusion dashboard, and then let's click on the outlet. Now we have a list of all our outlets. Now remember, at the beginning of the programming part of this video, we established that our pump was connected to variable speed 3 and variable speed 4. Remember, we have a single cable connected into a single IceCap module box. We also established that variable speed 3 outlet was going to be our speed, and variable speed 4 outlet was going to be the switch that would turn the pump from reverse to forward. So let's go ahead and configure our speed outlet first. First thing we need to do is rename this outlet to something that is easier to spot. I'm going to name it XF150_SPD. The icon is the icon that shows up on your Apex display module. For pumps, I like fans, but this is a personal preference, so you can use whatever you want. Control is going to remain advanced. I'm going to leave the log enable. And our programming window is where we're going to set the schedule. This is where we're going to call the speed profiles that we created at a set schedule so they are executed. To start programming, we need to figure out a schedule. I would like the speed profile day to be executed from 8 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock p.m. To do this, I'm going to type the following. If time 08:00, and that stands for 8 o'clock in the morning, to 19:00. The Apex runs in military time, so 1900 hours is 7 o'clock p.m. Then SPD day. And what this line means is that if the time is between 8 o'clock in the morning and 7 o'clock p.m., then execute speed day profile. Now, I would like the night profile to be executed immediately after. So I want it to start at 7 p.m. and then go all through the night until 8 o'clock in the morning. And to do this, I'm going to hit enter to create a new line and type if time 1900. Again, I want it to start immediately after the day profile ended to 8 a.m. Don't forget the 0 in front of it. Then SPD night. And what this line means is that if the time is between 7 p.m. and 8 o'clock in the morning, then execute the speed night profile. The last thing we need to do is make sure the pump turns off during feeding. So to do that, we're going to do if feed A 000, then off. What this means is that if I press the feed A button, the pump will automatically stop. Let's go ahead and scroll up and save this. Click OK. Let's go ahead and click on the outlets to return to our outlet list. So now we have instructed the pump to run our speed profiles. So the pump knows to run at 60% for 30 seconds, and then at 30% for 30 seconds during the day, and at 60% for 60 seconds, and at 30% for 60 seconds during the night. But the pump still does not know the direction, and that's where variable speed 4 outlet comes in. Remember, we said that the variable speed 4 outlet is a switch that will tell the pump to run in reverse or in forward motion. So let's go ahead and configure our variable speed 4 outlet. Let's click on that. Let's go ahead and name it something a little bit easier. So I'm going to call it XF150_DIR. For directional. The icon, again, it is the icon that shows on your Apex display module. So in this case, I'm going to use the left and right arrows. Control is going to advance, and the log is going to remain enabled. The schedule for the directional outlet must be the same as the schedule for the speed outlet. Remember, they both must be synchronized. We want to make sure that the directional day profile is executed at the same time that the speed profile is executed. To do this, we're going to go ahead and start by if time 0800 to 19:00, then dir day. And what this line means is that if the time is between 8 a.m. and 7 o'clock p.m., then execute the directional day profile. And remember, we also set the time for the speed profile day to be executed between 8 in the morning and 7 p.m. Now, to create the night schedule, we're going to do if time 1900 to 0800, 8 in the morning, then dir night. And what this line means is that if the time is between 7 p.m. and 8 a.m. in the morning, then execute the directional profile night. Again, this coincides with the schedule for the speed profile night. Last thing we need to do is make sure that the outlet turns off when feeding. To do this, if feed A 000, then off. Let's scroll up and save our directional outlet. Now we have a Maxspect Gyre pump that is configured to run in both forward and reverse speed. The last thing we need to do is to actually turn the outlets from manual off to automatic so that the program that we establish is executed. To do this, let's click on the dashboard icon, scroll down and find our newly created outlets, and remember, we renamed them from variable speed 3 and variable speed 4 to speed and directional outlet. All we need to do is turn them on. Now we have a Maxspect Gyre pump that during the day will run 30 seconds at 60% along the back and 30 seconds at 30% from back to front, and at nighttime will run for 60 seconds at 60% along the back and for 60 seconds at 30% from back to front. Hey everybody, and thank you for watching. I hope this video was helpful and you got a good understanding on how alternating gyre mode works. Use the information you learn as a starting point to create more profiles and more complex schedules. For those of you that think that 2 pumps are better than 1, please watch our upcoming video, IceCap Gyre Interface Module, Sync and Anti-Sync. We will create an advanced program that will allow us to run 2 separate pumps with offsetting flow patterns. If you would like more information on the IceCap Gyre Interface Module, check out the link below. If you have any technical questions that you wish to ask, please head over to www.coralvue.com/support and submit a support ticket. If you have any comments or tips to share with fellow reefers, feel free to leave them in the area below. If this is your first time watching, hit the subscribe button, as every week we release a new video related to reefing. Thank you again for watching CVtv, and see you next time.